The college basketball and of course Indiana, things are not going well in Bloomington.
No.
Not going nearly in the direction that fans had hoped. Not going in the direction that a lot of us thought that it would. And it started before the injury train started. Defense was not there. There was no toughness with this team. And then when the injuries start to happen and you have those issues that were already there, that makes things worse because it looks like the guys are having to come in to back up the backups. They're not prepared. And every time I watch a team that Indiana plays, I said this yesterday, it looks like they know what they're doing offensively, the opponents, at least within their own system. Indiana just seems hodgepodge. It's like there's just no fluidity there. And it's and I don't know. I'm not a coach, and I'm not don't pretend to be or an expert of any kind. I just talk about what I see and the questions that I can ask. But there's a lot of questions to ask right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I think obviously because I get to check in on them from time to time. Obviously, from having covered them, I had a sense of what it was going to be for this group and thought, okay, well, this is kind of who this player is. This is who this player can be. This is what he could be in more minutes. This is what he could be in less minutes. I mean, like some of the guys we've seen perform are not performing. And I think that's what's weird to me. Like Jordan Geronimo not producing is wild to me. Like, I mean, because the question I had this offseason was, can he play three? Can he expand? I had no question as to whether or not, okay, if Race gets hurt, he's going to be, a dominant four. Like he's going to be an excellent four. And he plays 10 minutes, doesn't score, gets 3 fouls, 2 rebounds, like he's just not making an impact. And you're like, how many times the last few years did you see Geronimo get in and not make an impact? Like this kid has so much energy, so much length, so much enthusiasm, so much just athleticism. You're like, well, why is that guy not making a difference? And I really thought Renew, like this, the way he started, I'm like, okay, that kid's advanced. That kid is way out ahead of it. And it seems like he's taken substantial steps back since the beginning, and he just has not reacted particularly well.
And that's mind-boggling because he has multiple additional opportunities because of the injuries.
Sure. No, absolutely. I mean, and is the backup 5, while also being the third 4 when Thompson's out there. Like there were plenty of minutes. He got opportunities for both. Got to start, when Trace was hurt at the 5. And again, just super talented kid, and super mature kid, and played on 2 high school national championships. And everything you heard about him was you can't speed him up. Like he has his game and he plays his game, and you can't take him out of his game. And he's been out of his game, it just seems like. And it's just it's been surprising. I don't, again, so I'm not there to see all the machinations, and certainly, the injuries do, change things, because you're talking about, obviously, Race is recent, but X is pretty significant. It's more than just Hood Schifino moving in and taking all the point guard spots. And obviously, he had his 6 turnovers, but he was phenomenal yesterday as far as shooting the ball. 33 points, 12 of 17, 5 of 7. I mean, that's just that's a spectacular game, what Hood Schifino had yesterday. That's just utterly phenomenal. For as much of a wreck as everybody else was. He'd made some not great passes, but the shot making was just terrific. But it just seems like no one else was ready to fill in. No one else is ready to get the next stop. I mean, I think you've seen Tamar Bates make some leaps, but again, guard play as a whole isn't great. It's not even so much individual guys, but you saw lazy passes yesterday.
Oh my gosh, that was horrible. And not only lazy passes on the opponent's end of the floor.
Yeah.
Time and time again.
Yeah, no, inbounds weren't great, and just all that. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, what I know it's noon on a Sunday, but come on. Like, what are like, wake up. Like, it's so, yeah, no, it's just been surprising. And I just did not expect it from this group. I thought there would be some bedrocks. I mean, you mentioned defense. I mean, like, defense was last year's bedrock I mean, they had all sorts of games where they couldn't shoot the ball at all. And they had just issues offensively and getting clogged up, but you knew they were going to guard, and it's mostly the same guys. and you're just like, okay, like what how is this possible? You know, like how is a backstep possible? That I think is the thing that it just seems like there's a backstep with a lot of the same, you know, and like we were all saying like, hey, it's not the same team. There's a lot of new guys, and there was, but you kind of thought they were going to supplant like everything that was there last year was there this year for the most part, and it was you were going to, you know, it was going to be supplemental, and it hasn't been, and it's just like, you know, it's crazy. IU tied for second in the nation in shooting. Are they really? And yet.
Yesterday is a perfect example because they shot 52% from the floor. They shot 50% from behind the arc on 18 3-point attempts.
Yeah.
But they also gave up 24 points off of turnovers to 0 at one point scored by Indiana. It was 24-0, and they were -9 at the free throw line at home.
It ended up 25-6. Yeah, that's.
I mean, I've never seen a number like that, to be honest with you, Dustin. I've never seen 24.
Like, I mean, Northwestern doesn't press you like ever. I mean, I'm just, I mean, like there were turnovers in the back, but like Northwestern is not a team, you know, traditionally, you know, like, and I wasn't watching it and breaking it down and everything like that, but Northwestern is traditionally not a team that forces 16 turnovers. Northwestern doesn't bring like, you know, the nastiest ball pressure or presses. Like, I don't know if they did more yesterday than they usually do or whatever, or what I'm used to seeing, but like, and they can throw zones at you that are a mess. I mean, that's one part of it. Obviously, it's like they had some zone in there, but they did, right? I did see some zone yesterday. Like, again, like I wasn't.
Yes, like, the most zone.
I wasn't on my grind yesterday.
As a matter of fact, I think what he said, it's some of the most zone he's ever played.
Yeah, he got to get better at that. They have not done well against zones at all. And it's not like, it's one thing when you're just not shooting over it, just not making the shots.
They're not prepared to go against. I don't think they're prepared to attack it personally. Yeah. Because they look like they're doing everything the same. Nothing changes.
Yeah, that's an issue. You need different plays for zones. like that's what it requires. You've
got to recognize it, call it out, and hit it quickly. And they're not doing that.
Yeah, no, it doesn't seem like it's just the first possession either. But like, oh, they're in a zone, we didn't know, like, because that happens. I mean, that's the whole point of it, is to say like, okay, see if they can take a minute to recognize it and see if you can get a steal that way, because they just didn't know it was coming. So yeah, no, I don't understand yet. I don't know. It seems bizarre to me. I mean, again, like I'm not covering it at the level, and like I don't have the same kind of like in-depth analysis, but like just what I've seen in pieces, just like how did this happen? You know, like I just would not have expected it, considering what I thought, you know, where it was coming from at that point. So,
and no one, I mean, when you start asking these kinds of questions, it gets difficult, but I wonder, and it has nothing to do with age or anything like that, but I think is there too much NBA influence in the coaching that's going on right now? Because I mentioned it, in the NBA, guys can self-motivate. Guys are more talented. Every guy in the NBA has talent. Every one of them. That's not the case here.
An immense amount.
And these guys aren't self-motivated all the time, as you can see. That some of them just don't know how to win. They don't know that. They do not know the effort it takes to win. And I don't know that some of them, they're not. I don't know that they're being that's being grinded into them. Either. And that surprises me, because we talk so much about the lack of toughness for this team, and it's warranted. It surprises me that a Bob Knight type of guy who was in the middle of that era is almost so opposite.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't like the idea, especially, you know, like I obviously have I still have a fresh perspective on the NBA, because I've just been covering it for, you know, a couple months now. But you know, like it's just a different world. Like and so like, I don't want to make that the, you know, like act like that's the influence that's the issue. Like the biggest difference between the NBA and college is it's like, you know, the NBA is running a marathon and college is running a 5K. Like it's not the same distance. It's that I think is kind of the biggest deal because the 82 plus playoffs is a whole different world from 35. Like the NBA has already played, the Pacers have played 5 more games than than a college season right now. And it's January 9th. So like that's the difference of what you're talking, like where there's still, plenty to go in this college season. And the NBA is, it has already played 42. It's already played 41. The Pacers have already played 41 at this point. And like you can't kill yourself for every single loose ball. You have to have a second unit that plays 15 minutes a night. Like you have to have 5 subs on the floor 15 minutes a night. Like that, you won't survive if you don't. You will run your guys ragged. So it's a different world. It's just a different world. And I don't think, toughness is required. I saw, like down the stretch, the Pacers just grinded stuff out last night. And I see that every night, it's a weird pace. It's not like every game feels life or death as much like college does. But when these guys want it, they hit a level that is just simply not possible in the college game. It's just not possible. So, like, I don't want to say that Woodson walked in there and didn't have the ability to instill that, number one, and certainly don't want to give the impression they didn't know this instill the X and O's. The big issue for the NBA is they don't have time to prepare from game to game. They have like a night to figure out, okay, like you just played Damian Lillard, now you have to go against Kevin Durant, like. Good luck, figuring out something magical in a day that you can get people to digest. And it's just like, get some sense of how to make them uncomfortable, know that they're going to score 110 too, and hope you score 115. So I don't think that's the influence. I don't think it seemed to me like he connected to the guys well. While I was, at least from what they talked about when I was on the beat, I don't want to come in and I can't judge Mike Woodson as an X and O's guys from where I stand right now because I've stepped away from it. But all the same, like, yeah, like, like ultimately how a team performs is on the coach. And it's still, it is still January 9th. And I do think, you obviously saw, even last year, there were points where you were like, you're ready to bury that group. And, they found a way to make the tournament at least. Not that that's the biggest thing in the world. And if this team just barely scrapes by to get in the tournament, like that's still going to be considered a disappointment for sure. But, like I'm not going to put it past them to get it figured out. Obviously the equation's different. And it does require, them to figure out something different. And really that they just got knocked off track by 2 really good teams and then found themselves a different team because of players they lost. And they just doesn't seem like they've reacted well. But they can. And so I'm not going to judge Mike Woodson's coaching job at this point. But if the bottom falls out, then you're like, okay, like, yes, that is something Mike Woodson has to wear. He's got a good enough team. Even with X and Thompson out, there is enough talent that this should be an NCAA tournament team. I don't know that they should win the Big Ten without those 2 guys. Like I don't know that I would say that on paper starting from square one, like forget the games they've already lost. But like if they were 0-0 coming into, and you said, okay, imagine that roster without Thompson and Johnson. Do they still think it's a Big Ten championship team? I would say probably not. But like, like Tamar Bates and Jordan Geronimo stepping in there as your starters for, in their stead, like that team should still win. Those guys are really talented players. And Renew or Geronimo as your power forward. If those are your 5 guys, if Jalen Hood-Schifino, Tamar Bates, Miller Kopp, Jordan Geronimo, or Malik Renew, and Trace Jackson are your 5 guys, you should be able to win with that. And
I've been really surprised at Malik Renew hitting the wall and staying at this wall, it seems like.
Yeah, never. I don't know what's holding him back. Again, because I'm not watching it in the same way that I usually watch it, but just doesn't seem like the confident guy that I feel like we saw at the beginning of the season. I was impressed by everything that he was doing before I switched beats. Just like the skill he had around the bucket, just the handle, the moves. The ability to shoot it from outside from time to time. And defensively, he seemed pretty good. He doesn't have obviously the raw athleticism that Jackson Davis does. You're not going to see him pinning shots off the backboard the same way that Trace can. But yeah, no, I like he just seemed like he was going to produce a ton to me. Like I am, like, and I'm only catching him looking back in bits and pieces, but like he just seemed like he was doing everything right, and he just had that track of a guy who was going to be kind of fringe All Big Ten rookie, All Big Ten freshman this year, just because he wasn't going to start. That there were other guys. Obviously, Hood Schifino, I presumed was going to be in that mix to even possibly win it. Obviously, Bryce Sensabaugh is taking over.
He's the runaway leader, is he not?
Yeah, right. Runaway leader at this point, but like you got to obviously get Lawyer and Braden Smith in there and all that sort of deal.
And I've written those are the exact names I have written down too. But the thing is, all of them, well, Bryce Sensabaugh has just gone from good to really good to looking like a sophomore already. Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer, they provided instant stability, and they've lost a game, but they still seem like they're learning and going. They're still trending up. And Jalen Hood Schifino, I think that he has really blossomed. I hate to say that since Xavier got hurt, he's had to carry more load. He's doing two jobs. He's scoring and running the offense. But he's looked a lot more comfortable scoring since that happened. But Malik has just hit a wall, and there's been no upward trend. I mean, if you want to really, it's been a step down and then flatline for him, and it's just surprising to see. Especially again, you've got a guy who that's his position. That's the position he played in, Mike Woodson. That should be something that comes easy for him to help him with that. But it's just been weird seeing him not grow.
Yeah. And again, I don't get it. I mean, like if you would have told me in October that by January there would be people who would be saying that Miller Kopp should slide down and start at the 4, like that not only should he not be supplanted by Jordan Geronimo at the 3, he should slide down to the 4 and take the minutes from Geronimo and Renew. Like that's knocking me over with a feather stuff. Like how, like it was the literal opposite, when I left the beat, because everyone was like, okay, well, Miller Kopp can't start. If Miller Kopp starts, this team's screwed. Like this team's got to maximize, its talent on in the starting lineup. So that means, Jordan Geronimo is clearly one of the 5 most talented guys on the team. Malik Renew is clearly one of the 5 most talented guys on the team. You got to try to get them in the starting lineup. If that means putting Race Thompson on the bench, fine. All of the above.
What are you talking about?
Anyway, fair. But anyway, point of the matter, like I would have never thought that, like, I mean, Tony Adranya was pushing for that. Tony Adranya is a guy I really, really respect as a basketball mind. And like that was being suggested openly that Miller Kopp at the 4 is the best move for this roster, and just that would have shocked me in October. There was no one saying that, and there were a lot of people saying the opposite.